Hi, thank you for coming to my presentation today. This is about PVC and eye gaze, tablet stands, and more. My name is David Jackson. I am a speech pathologist with the PATINS Project, and I focus on helping students with augmentative and alternative communication and students with orthopedic impairment. So this presentation will be talking about different ways that you can make things for cheap or fairly inexpensively. Now, I'm going to be using a slide deck that I used for a full hour presentation, so I'll be skipping through some slides, but I will provide this slide deck to you guys so if you want to go a little bit deeper into this. And if you want to schedule a time afterwards, I'm more than happy to do a presentation and expand on this one. So, and I'm going to be moving my picture around there a little bit. Sometimes it might get in the way. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'll tell you a little bit about PATINS Project. And here's the agenda. You can use this QR code here and scan with your phone. It'll take you to a Padlet, and there are different things there that you can check into. But here's the agenda. We're going to talk about parts and tools, some of the eye gaze things, and different stands. PATINS stands for Promoting Achievement Through Technology and Instruction for All Students. And that really means that these sources, these resources, tools, and strategies are good for all kids, not just kids with identified disabilities. The PATINS Accessibility Promise, there's a lot of information here, but basically you see this slide deck is just kind of plain. It's not a lot of pictures and fancy stuff on there. So we try to avoid those, make it easy for people with visual difficulties to be able to see and follow along. So simple backgrounds, and you'll see shortened QR codes, or shortened links, QR codes, and hyperlinks. If you want more information on this, we have PATINS specialists who provide trainings in just this area. This bagel, quote bagel here, is addresses Every Student Succeeds Act, and in the center of that it has equity plus access equals outcome. So by providing different tools and strategies and universal design for learning, that provides equity for kids, and you're enabling them with access, and they're going to do better. Our mission is to support all Indiana public schools in creating and sustaining an equitable learning environment. These are some of the services that we offer. As I mentioned, you'll get access to this slide deck, but you can go to the PATINS website and check out some of these resources. We have our Tech Ed conference, Tech Expo conference coming up April 15th. That's under number 1. It's free. We have vendors from all over the country presenting. Another one I want to highlight is the Refurbished Technology Program number 8 on the far right there, far right column. You can request refurbished computers, tablets, and other pieces of equipment, up to 10 items per school year per building. Definitely worth checking out. Whatever you request, you could send home to the student for keeps, or you could use in the classroom. Here's some of the terminology. I'm not going to go over it, but basically PVC Schedule 40 you can pick up at your hardware store for pretty cheap. A 10-foot section, last time I checked, was about $2.60. It's important to consider the set framework when you're choosing some of these things, when you're evaluating students. For more information, you can go to Joy Zabala's website. Her name is Joy, J-O-Y. Last name is Zabala, Z-A-B-A-L-A. Here's the Schedule 40. Half-inch pipe, and you'll use T-connectors, elbows, and caps. So if you go to the hardware store and you tell them you want Schedule 40 and you want these half-inch connectors, that's what you'll get. You can also get some specialty connectors at different websites. You can order them directly from the vendors, or you can go to Amazon and another vendor. These are some of the tools. The top left, if you want to just use some quick cuts and you don't have a whole bunch to do, that lever action is okay. You can also cut PVC with a hacksaw. There's a ratcheting PVC cutter on the far right. If you have weak hands, you can use that one. And if you're going to be doing a whole bunch of cuts, you could use a miter saw. Just be careful when you're using the miter saw. Keep the blade going and gently pull it into the PVC pipe and take it away, because it is brittle and it will chip. And then, of course, the tape measure and a Sharpie. You can glue things together. I don't recommend doing that. What you really need is your imagination. I have this backdrop behind me. I used this photo backdrop at my daughter's wedding several years ago, and this is out of 3/4 inch PVC. Here is the meat and potatoes. People really like this one, and it's really great for students. It's an eye gaze board. So there's the parts list. That thing there costs about $5.50 to make in parts. Super cheap. If you buy something commercial, you're going to spend upwards of $50 to a couple $100 for some of the thing that's commercially made. But you can adjust these. If you look at the picture on the right where the 12-inch, that's a leg that you could adjust that to make it taller. If you want to have this sitting on the floor, this model that you see here would sit on a desktop or a tray mount for a wheelchair. And then you can adjust the window. You can rotate it forward or backwards if you need to change the angle. You can even rotate it all the way down if the student's lying on the floor, and you can put this PVC eye gaze over the student, and you can look down through the PVC as the student's looking up at you, and you can attach pictures along the square here. And you can make this a rectangle if that's more appropriate for your student, but you would attach Velcro along the edges here, and you could attach pictures, or you could use shower rings and hook on toys on there. There's lots of variations of things you can do. But there's the parts list, and you can adjust those to your needs. And so here's an example. The red lines there, that's where you can put Velcro. And as I've mentioned, you can use picture symbols. You can use items like this, 3D printed symbols, small objects, toys. You can go to Project Core, get a lot of great symbols that you could print out. You don't have to pay for it. You can print out, there are so many different variations, high contrast ones. You can do an eye gaze one like this. You could use that piece of sheet protector, the baseball card holder, and put snap rings on it and then hook it onto your PVC, like something like this for eye gaze. Another variation on eye gaze for scanning. This is a commercial one. Here's another idea for eye gaze. This is commercial. It's free. Just takes time to print it out. We could go more. Yeah, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I want to get into the PVC stuff. There are shower curtains, hooks holding some toys on the PVC eye gaze. Here's another variation on the eye gaze solution. Excuse me. So this is real mobile, so you could have this hanging on the wall behind the teacher at the front of the classroom or by the doorway. So when a student comes in, you could grab it real quick. You could have choice of two. Could be yes, no. Could be schedule. You could say our first then. Lots of different ideas. This one, $2 for this. And you can adjust that to whatever size you want. If you want, you can take that whole top half off and just make it a T. And so there's just a bar that goes across but where you're holding it on the handle. You could do that. You could also take that handle part and put it on a mount and connect it to a wheelchair. There's all kinds of variations you can do with this stuff. Here's an example with the symbols on there. And here's some ideas for teaching eye gaze, some links there. These are commercial eye gaze devices. These things cost, well, $1,200 at the bottom right, that Tobii Dynavox PCI Mini. That's about $1,200. You can plug that into a computer, Windows or Mac computer, and you can control with your eyes. I may have misspoken. Maybe it's just Windows. I have to double check. Pretty sure it might be just Windows. And you can control the mouse movement and everything just with your eyes. And then some of these things, the top right, you can control your devices with head control. So you're moving your head and the mouse moves around. And you don't have to touch it at all. You just stare at it or hold your head steady for a second, and it's like you're tapping with a mouse. And then the bottom right, that's about a $15,000 device that has eye gaze built into the bottom of it. With all of these things, you know, you're here at this presentation, you were probably a fixer and a helper. And so I just like this quote, you know, see a need, fill a need, from Robots, Big World, the guy. Here's another super important. I'm sorry, I feel like I need to fly through this because this is usually an hour presentation, and I'm watching the clock, trying to keep this at about 30 minutes. This is another really nice solution for your tablet. So it doesn't have to be an iPad. You can even make it for a phone, or I have another phone variation. But what's nice about this is that you have both sides, and you can change the angles depending on what angle you need for your student. And you can do portrait, or you can do landscape or portrait with this, and we'll go through some pictures here. So this has a case on the iPad, and you see with the longer leg, it changes the angle, so it's a bigger angle, or it's lower, 60 degrees, and then the far right, you can have it standing upright a little more, depending on your student needs. And you may work with your occupational therapist or somebody from your assistive technology team that can help you determine which of these solutions is really the best for your student. You may need to use a zip tie to hold it on there so it doesn't fall off or get knocked off. You can use a bungee cord. Again, these are just ways to try it out. There are more permanent solutions. There are commercial pieces of equipment that work really well too. But I like these because they're inexpensive and you can try it out. And most of the time, these will solve most of your needs. This was another variation. A student or a teacher was trying to figure out something for a student, and I just modified that tablet stand that you had, and we came up with this because the student needed to access the keyboard like that, using it to the iPad. And by the way, you can connect USB devices to iPads like a regular mouse. You can plug this into an iPad using an Apple adapter like this, a camera adapter. So this would plugs into the iPad, and this has USB. So you could use a USB keyboard, you could use a regular mouse, you could use a USB mouse or a Bluetooth mouse, a joystick, lots of things. Another idea, this could be for teaching, reading, writing, spelling, communication, text symbols, lots of different ways, depending on what the goal, the tasks that student needs to do. That's going back to the SET framework, S-E-T-T. So you're looking at the student, the environment, and the tasks. Then you start looking at these tools. So I've gone over a lot of tools, but you really need to think about those first three things, then come up with the tools. This is a flagpole holder, and I saw this. I think Teresa Wilcom, she is an occupational therapist, and she has been creating lots and lots of things like you've seen so far. She's super creative. And so I took this one and I added a PVC piece in there, and I made a rectangle at the top of it, and I used rubber bands, and I attached the iPad on there, and then you can bolt this thing to a board and put it between the student's legs in a wheelchair, and they can have an upright tablet holder. Something like this. So you just have to get kind of creative how you're going to connect it to your device. But as long as you start understanding the principles, you can get real creative and come up with some really neat ideas. There's some other things I found, searching on the internet. People get pretty creative on a bunk bed with a couple hangers there. Put your device in there. To the one on the far right with PVC. I'll send you this. You can check out Miss Bolin from Ben Davis High School. She has a lot of really great ideas for things like, I don't know where I put it, but something like this. I'm holding, I put my phone in it, the phone holder, and I keep it right here in front of the computer, so it holds my phone up. Hope there's no bad messages there, but I have it sitting right there on my desk, so it keeps it up and visible to me. You could do lots of different things. Oops, I'm sorry, I thought I turned those off. Okay, but check out this video, and she is on YouTube, so you can find it there. As I mentioned, there you go, mouse with the iPad. And you get that circle, you can change the color, the size, you can change it so it does something called dwell. So if the student cannot do the clicking like this, but can move their hand, which if this is on a table, it's going to give them some good stability. So if they can move the mouse around and just let it sit there and hold, that circle will change. It will go it'll go clockwise, and it's like you're tapping. So it's called dwell, and that will tap on the screen. So they don't have to touch the screen. They don't even have to click on the mouse. Just moving the mouse around, they can make selections. And there's a whole bunch of things you can do to really enhance that. You can do hot corners on the iPad to make going down to any of the four corners to do other actions that the student needs, like a screenshot or turn on voice control or have it read the screen. Just so many different things you can do. If the iPad is your go-to thing, and the mouse is a good solution for the student, there's definitely tools to make that work. Some more ideas, standard activity box. It just takes you being creative and putting those pieces together. Here's something else I made for a laptop to hold it up. So a lot of people are using laptops and doing Zoom meetings and stuff. And if you have it on the desk and you're doing this and you get that crick in your neck, using something like this helps you elevate the laptop so it keeps the screen right here at good eye level. So $2, and you can adjust the length and the height to suit your needs. But your eyes should be there about the top third of the screen. You don't have to use the keyboard on the computer. You can plug in a USB keyboard or a Bluetooth keyboard and a mouse for your workstation. So there are the dimensions and what it looks like. This is the one from Mrs. Bolin that she used, a tape dispenser, old tape dispenser. I put a piece of cardboard to keep my phone upright so it wasn't drooping down. And then the far right one's one I made out of PVC. I got the idea off of somebody else. Another video you can check out on how to make a big tablet stand out of cardboard. I'm going to try it that way. This guy's video, wow, he goes way over the top with this. I think you could drive a car on it and it would hold it. But he glued it all together. It's super heavy duty. I don't think you need to go that crazy. But it's interesting to watch these and get ideas from other people. Here's another way you could do it. So this could be for books or music stand. If you don't have commercial music stands, or you need to make those adjustments and angles and stuff for your student, you could get an idea from a regular music stand and then change the sizes to suit your student's needs. That's what's so nice about this. Even if you make this and it's too big, you can cut it down with your tools and make it fit. Water stand table. You may have seen these speech therapists using these for auditory feedback. You can make it like a telephone, so they're listening to their speech, how they're producing their sounds, and it goes right into your ear. It's very good feedback tool. And you can color code them for students having their own. Something else that you can do with PVC, you can take those pieces and include it with this thing called modular hose. The gray stuff there, lock line or modular hose, is real flexible and it holds its position. It's good for lighter weight stuff, but you can use PVC to work with that. And so this is a switch, and I put the PVC cap on the end and used Velcro, and now I can bend that lock line and make it fit wherever I want. If I want to put it up by a student's head and they can do head activation, or under chin, or maybe it's their shoulder or their elbow, or whatever, or their toe, knee, whatever body part they can control reliably, you can use this lock line to get to that spot, and you can use PVC to help modify it. Here's some more lock line. On the right there, some examples of a solution. I helped a coworker. I took some of those PVC pieces and I cut them on my bandsaw, and then I put them into a big PVC cap, and then we were able to use this for a switch mount. Here's some other ideas. The device on the far right, down here at the bottom right, that's called Small Rig, and I got it from Amazon for $15. So you get the clamp and the ball socket joint there. And then you can take that thing with the thing on the far left, which is a phone holder, and you see there's a screw hole at the bottom. You can put that onto the mount. These mounts here at the far right one is for cameras and photographer stuff, but you can use it for assistive technology. So that switch, that's a Bluetooth switch that you see there in the phone holder that works really well. And I actually have it here at my workstation. I have an iPad. I have an iPad on a stand, and I have that small rig here with that Bluetooth switch to hold it up and keep it off of my desk. So it's just being creative and kind of thinking about all those things that are available. These are some other ideas you can do with PVC. Top left, that's a thumb screw on just two pieces of PVC, a T and the PVC pipe. and you can put your drawing instrument in there and tighten down the thumb screw to hold it in. On the bottom left, that's a glue stick, so if the student needs just a little bit of extra support, you could shove that in there and make that work. Just lots of good ideas. And there's a link here for some of these resources. And that far right one, that's an old mouse, and they've attached a piece of PVC with a thumb screw to give that student more stability so it rests on the table or desktop, and then they can move it around for coloring. Here's one to enable a student. I just talked about this morning on a consultation for a student that needs a stylus. So this is using just pressure, but you could put a stylus for a touch screen and decide the angle, drill a hole in that PVC tube, and then put your stylus in there and use some Velcro for the student's hand to give them the proper support they need. You can use it to support handles and access. You could do something like this to make a document camera, but there's an easier way to do it, a locker shelf. And you can set your tablet on top of it and then put some pieces of tape down at the bottom of the desk or table and slide your document, take your picture, pull that one out, put the next one in. That's just one way. There's lots of ways to do this, but you know, you don't really have to create a whole bunch of crazy stuff. You can just try to think about things that you have handy. You could even put your phone or tablet on a stack of books and just make sure it doesn't tip over, and then put your document underneath it for a document camera or scanner. This is something I made a long time ago with one of the first generation iPads for a student that needed the support. He could put his hand on there and slide it back and forth so he wasn't tapping the screen. There are lots of apps now that recognize you using the screen as support, and it doesn't choose that feedback until you tap one spot. But this is making it out of wood, you know, just being creative. Some additional ideas. On the left, that's a camera tripod stand. I put a yardstick on there, and I used some spring clamps and put a document camera on there. And I had this at my workstation to the right. The middle thing is a stand off of a monitor. Took the monitor off because it was old, or I mounted it up on a wall, I don't remember. But then you can just slide your iPad, if it has a handle on it, slide it on there, and you've got an iPad stand for free. This was a solution for a student I worked with that needed to drink a lot of water, but he always had to rely on a, I moved that out of there, so it's using lock line or modular hose. He had to wait for the adult or the caregiver to give him a drink of water. So in order to get him more independent, I came up with this idea of using a Camelback drinking system and zip tied it to the lock line. And so we adjusted it so the straw was right by his mouth so he could come over and take a drink whenever he wanted to. Just another way to do it. Here's another way. You can use a cup holder, make PVC out of this, zip tie it or Velcro it to the student. It's just, you know, thinking about that student, the environment, and what they need to do, and then brainstorming some ideas to make it happen. Go back up there. So Instamorph, that's something that's kind of cool. You could Google that and check it out. It's some beads, and you heat them up, and you can mold it to do things to different shapes. Another solution I did for a student, this was before there were some really good mounts out there. I took the lid off of an Otterbox Defender, and I took the stand on the left there. I took the stand part off, and I drilled, I took some aluminum and mounted it on there and put a screw, and then I could mount it to a wheelchair mount. And to put the iPad in there, and it worked really well. Okay, you can do 3D printing for a lot of stuff. My son printed a 3D printer to hold his headphones. That's just a stock image on the left, but it took 6 hours for him to print it. I did the one on the right. It took me about 5 minutes with PVC to make that happen for my headphone stand. But there is a special piece there at the very bottom. That's a furniture piece. That's a 5-way. Actually, it has the pipe comes down the middle, and there's 4 parts that come out of it. So sometimes you do need special connectors, but they're available. And then 3D printing. Let me take my picture off of there. That thing at the top right is called a T-nut. And there's a nut there, or bolt right there. It's a 1/4 20 bolt. And there's a screw adapter you can get. Sometimes you need some of these pieces. But if you can hear the 3D printing, it's going back there. I'm printing something like this right now. This thing takes about 2 hours and 45 minutes to print, but this is a 3D communication symbol for somebody with blind or low vision. So it has the printed word. Oops, you don't see that part of the screen, do you? So it has the printed word there, and it has a tactile symbol, and it has Braille. And this one is yellow and has bumps on the outside edge. Some of the other have different shapes. This is square, it's green, it's a preposition on. But you can use some of these pieces when you're 3D printing switch mounts. So there's some images of it, some of the tools you need. And so there's a switch on the far left that's called a proximity switch. So I don't have to touch it, I just have to move my finger kind of close to it. I can make it so that I can make it so my finger's about an inch away, or what is it, 3 inches or 6 inches, or you can even tap it. But there's no mount for it, so I 3D printed a mount so I can slide that in there, and then I can put it on a mount like that picture on the far right. More 3D. This thing took 6 hours. You wouldn't want to print a whole bunch of these at 6 hours. Lots of different switches. These are from Logitech, adapted switches for gaming for kids. And here's some mounts, some commercial mounts. These things cost upwards of $1,000 or more for students. This is, and they're very robust, and you may need these for certain kids. These are heavy-duty mounts. There are less expensive ones that are commercial. People use these on their ATVs or motorcycles or vehicles. I came across these mounts recently, and I really, really like them. They're called Mogo mounts. And I like them because they're modular. So at the middle bottom there, that's kind of the heart of it. That piece will connect to the thing above it, the gooseneck, and you can use a clamp, spring clamp on the top left, a heavy-duty clamp on the bottom left, or a lightweight one on the bottom right. There's a desktop plate there, and it looks kind of like this. So the top left is the gooseneck. That'll hold 4 pounds. They have pieces that connect to the wheelchair in a T-groove, or you can use those clamps that I showed you. I really, really like it, and it was I think it's about 120 bucks. It's a lot cheaper than the other mounts. These are other examples. The one on the left is about 350 bucks, and you can use some of the modular hose examples here. Less expensive, but they can sag and drop down a little bit. Some floor mounts, some table mounts. These are some inexpensive things that you can get on Amazon. The one on the flexible gooseneck on the left side is about 25 bucks, I think. So you could try some of these things, and if it seems to work, then you could go up the scale and spend some money. And a lot of these things you can borrow from the Patents Lending Library, the Patents website. Some more solutions. And sometimes the stuff you buy on Amazon for cheap just doesn't work very well. Some more examples of modular hose, making switches. And we always talk about literacy solutions. If you haven't seen Tar Heel Reader, it's a great book for kids that have print disabilities or access difficulties. Check out Tar Heel Reader. It's pretty awesome. And there's Shared Tar Heel Reader that has symbol-supported text at the bottom. So they can click on those on an iPad or a touchscreen or with their mouse. Whether they can say whether they like it or not, or they want to go to the next page. They can turn the page, and you can change those symbols to do different things. Some other solutions here are fall conference is November 17th and 18th. It's most likely going to be virtual, but we'll see depending on how we do with COVID there. It's a great conference. And here's a lot of the resources that I mentioned. You'll get the slide deck. And our Tech Expo is April 15th, and you can check that out with this QR code. Scan that phone with your phone, and it'll take you to the website. Or you can go to bit.ly, bit.ly/Tech Expo, TECHEXPO, and you can register for it. It's free. Patents is part of the Indiana Resource Network. Most of these organizations are funded fully or in part by DOE. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. My email is djackson@patinsproject.org. That's DJACKSON@PATINSproject.org. One last thing I forgot. Please complete this evaluation. You may have an evaluation for your district, but this goes to our database, and I use it to improve my presentations. I look at the feedback from every one of you, and you will also get the survey at tinyurl.com/patinspgp. That's spelled tinyurl.com/PATINSPGP.